Hello viewers, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm by the name of Shaki Douglas. Basically in today's tutorial which I'll be talking about the information sources. This tutorial today will help us actually to differentiate between primary and secondary sources of information. Shall get to know about the scholarly and popular sources of information, the format types, then published information sources. So, looking at the primary and secondary sources of information, um, when we talk of primary source of information, by definition, it is original and interpreted evidence from the time of an event or creation. Meanwhile, when we talk of secondary source of information, it is the analysis, interpretation, or commentary on primary source of information. So what am I trying to mean? With secondary information, it's all about the backup of primary information. They try to give detailed information about primary information. As earlier mentioned, primary information is original and interpreted evidence from time of an event or creation. It's something very original, like no editing, but secondary information is all about editing what has been got from the primary information. Now let's look at this in terms of the perspective, which I realize that primary information basically is the first-hand account information, direct, and the receiving witness. So it deals with direct witness, like it is just something whereby someone come out with the information from the direct source, direct source. So the witness actually is the key, plays a key role in bringing about this primary source of information. Meanwhile, the secondary source of information deals with the second-hand account, one step removed. Remember, we tell you, actually earlier on I told you that secondary information is the backup of the primary information, meaning that one step already has been removed, so it is a second-hand account. Now when we talk about how this information are created, or when they are created, we'll see, like for primary sources of information, they are created at the time of the event or soon after. Time of the event or soon after. Meanwhile, when you talk of secondary source of information, it is after the event, often with benefit of hindsight. So what do we mean by this term hindsight? Hindsight in this case refers to an information which has gotten some information, like the opportunity to be edited or worked upon to come out with something better. That's the meaning of hindsight in this context to what we are learning. And then if you look at the purpose of primary information, it provides raw evidence. Raw evidence means that it is a kind of information which is brought about from the direct source. It brings about raw evidence. And then meanwhile, the secondary source of information explain or analyze, synthesize the evidence. It is all about bringing more backup on the primary source of information. Now let's look at the scholarly versus popular information. When you look at the feature for how the purpose, under the feature we'll start with the purpose. The purpose for scholarly source of information is to share original research or theory. Sharing original research or theory. Meanwhile, popular source of information is basically to entertain, inform the general public, or sell products. Generally to entertain, inform the public, or sell products. Now, when you look at the authors for scholarly information, right, that we realize that it's basically the experts, researchers, then academics based on academics, and credentials for this case are listed. Meanwhile, for popular information, you have journalists, staff writers, freelancers. Freelancers are like people who are self-employed. They engage themselves in doing their own business, like they write on their own behalf, then they publish, they make money from it. Generally, it's all about being self-employed. The difference between a freelancer and or staff writers, for them they're employed to work maybe for an organization, but a freelancer basically does his work on his own, is self-employed. So the examples of scholarly sources of information, we have Journal of American Medical Association, Nature, and then dissertations. Meanwhile, for popular source of information, we can talk about Time magazines, we talk about Vogue, blogs, and many others. Now we look at the format types. Format types are basically categorized or grouped into two forms. We have the print formats, which include books, academic journals, and many others, newspapers, magazines, and so forth. So we also have another format, which is the digital formats. For example, we have database, ebooks, prints, and then blogs. Now, when we look at the published information sources, by definition, it's basically information made publicly available through a deliberate process. And when we look at the scholarly, okay, like the example of published information, we can group them into two events: the scholarly information sources, then popular information sources. Under scholarly information sources, we can talk of peer-reviewed journals and then academic books. Meanwhile, under popular sources of information, we can talk about newspapers, magazines, trade publications, then maybe we say commercial books. So that's all for today's tutorial. Thanks for always following me on my YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe for more videos or tutorials on information literacy.